Let's stay with Mozambique, and the region and perhaps the broader international community may now be getting involved to help secure northern Mozambique. Lasting peace will require significantly more time and effort. Let's discuss the road ahead with journalist and activist Mark Hayward. He's editor of the Maverick Citizen website. Mark, thanks so much for chatting to us. So the town of Palma has been reclaimed by Mozambican security forces. Do you think peace is possible without some international backup for them?
Well, I think peace is possible, but peace will only be possible if we get to the root causes of this conflict. And as Barry and as the Institute for Security Studies have both said to you, the root causes lie in the corruption of the Mozambican government, in the enforced poverty of that province, in the inequalities in that province, and in the fact that the basic systems of governments and rights have not worked for at least a decade. And it is this that has fueled the insurgency, an insurgency that after a period of time has taken on a terribly, terribly brutal and cruel character, and which appears to have some links with international Islamic terrorism. So I think we have to hope for peace. But I think that if anybody going to the Troika tomorrow thinks that there is a security solution and it's just a question of beefing up the militaries and the military response, then they're going to be very mistaken. One of the people I spoke to, who's an expert in the region, told me about the dangers of what he called an Iraqification of Cabo Delgado, which means that, you know, the government and so on protects the gas reserves, puts up big fences, security systems around them, but in the rest of the province, a low-level civil war continues, and that would be the worst thing, obviously, to happen.
And it seems to be an age-old story that there's wealth to be capitalized on, international companies come in, but it doesn't seem that there's enough trickle-down to the people living in the communities of those big projects. Why is this still happening, Mark?
Well, that's a very good question. It's not that there's enough trickle-down. There's no trickle-down. Cabo Delgado is a very rich province, but all of its wealth is stolen out of the province internationally and into the northern provinces of Mozambique, or into the pockets of northern politicians. But what I would say, Sally, is that there are important local initiatives. I interviewed somebody from an organization called the Center for Development and Democracy, based in Maputo. They have created a platform that includes business, in this case, the company Total, which is the main company developing the gas reserves, the Mozambican government, including the military, and civil society and human rights activists. I think if I was President Ramaphosa, or if I was the Troika, I would try to give the space, a buffer zone for that local initiative to succeed, and try to set out a core set of humanitarian and human rights principles which are the basis for the way forward. You know, that province has been racked, and the Mozambican government hasn't helped. Today, Sally, is the first anniversary of the disappearance, he's still disappeared, of a journalist called Ibrahim Mbarako, who was working in Cabo Delgado. The last he reported on the 7th of April 2020 was that he was surrounded by soldiers. He's not been heard of ever since. So that's the type of environment, and it's that environment that has to be changed.
Absolutely. And Mark, you write that in your article, you say the United Nations is not much better. It too has been aware of the mounting human rights violations reported from the area, but slow to act. And I think it's troubling to read that, particularly on the anniversary of the Rwandan genocide, where the UN has been absolutely slammed for not stepping in and for allowing so many human rights atrocities to occur. Can we blame the international community here? And I'm asking that because there are signs that the Mozambican government did not want international involvement up until now.
Well, the Mozambican government doesn't want international involvement because it's got quite a lot to hide of its own crimes and misdemeanors, and it's got quite a lot to protect of its own corruption. But international and regional assistance is necessary, and bodies like the United Nations, it's precisely at moments like this when civil society alerts the United Nations to a pending danger that they should be doing everything in their powers to head off that danger. I can tell you, Sally, 2 years ago, almost exactly, I wrote a report for the United Nations looking at civil society issues in Southern Africa and flagged this question of Cabo Delgado and what was happening 2 years ago. And it's hard to see what has happened since then. So that's what's frustrating, is that with good international governance, with good corporate governance, and with good regional governance, it would be possible to mitigate these disasters before they get to the extremes that we're now facing in that particular province.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for your time. That was Mark Hayward. He is the editor of Maverick Citizen.